Coming up on today's show.
Well, a lot of people are so excited about getting organized, but sometimes they have some little things that trip them up.
If this were like one of the late shows, we'd do a countdown. Do you want to do a count up or a countdown? Should we start with number 1 or number 10?
Most people think more bins equal more organized, and that's not necessarily the case. So having a whole bunch of organizing products doesn't help make a better organized space. So think about decluttering first. Don't shop first. Wait till after you know how many bins you need and what sizes and things like that.
The 10 most common mistakes in organizing. Today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we're going to go over some of those common mistakes that keep people from being organized, or even mistakes they make while they're organizing. And joining us is Ellen DeLapp from professional-organizer.com. Ellen, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you, John?
I'm doing phenomenal. We're getting near the end of the year, and you know, this is a time when people start thinking a lot about getting organized. So let's get into these. We have a lot to cover in today's show. So we have these 10 common mistakes. Do you want to preface that with anything before we start getting into them?
Well, a lot of people are so excited about getting organized, but sometimes they have some little things that trip them up. So I'm glad we're going to have the opportunity to share a little bit about what some of those things are.
All right. Now, if this were like one of the late shows, we'd do a countdown. Do you want to do a count up or a countdown? Should we start with number 1 or number 10?
Oh, we can start with number 1. That's
okay.
Great.
Because they're not in any particular order, right?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Great. Well, what's the number 1 most common mistake?
I think people jump in a little too quickly. One of the first things I talk about is plan your work and work your plan. So knowing that you want to know what the end result's going to be and get a plan in action. Don't just jump in and get started right away. Know how are you going to dispose of things, what kind of help you can get. And so that way it makes it a lot easier when you're getting started.
Do you think some people kind of like jump in and they're all gung ho, but they haven't really thought it through and then get discouraged because they hit a roadblock?
Exactly. And then they feel like they can't even get started back again. So having a really good plan in place is a very good first step, more than even just getting started.
Okay, well, I know that's probably a whole nother podcast, but what would be a good plan? Is there something that you can compartmentalize into a couple quick sentences about what a good plan entails?
Well, a good plan to start is to think about the timeline. Like, how much time do you want to spend at any certain time? You may think you have to spend the entire weekend organizing, so maybe it's better to commit to your calendar and write in 2-hour segments for about 3 or 4 weeks so you can get done more easily and with better decision making as a result.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's move on to item number 2, common mistake number 2. What's the next one?
I think everyone will identify with this one. It's most people think more bins equal more organized, and that's not necessarily the case. So having a whole bunch of organizing products doesn't help make a better organized space. So think about decluttering first. Don't shop first. Wait till after you know how many bins you need and what sizes and things like that. So keeping your organizing products until the end when you're ready to make a decision about them.
Well, now you just lost our major sponsor, the Container Store. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, actually, yeah, it is. So again, I think that's kind of like the jumping in thing. People look at, you go out to those stores or you go online and you see all the products and you start drooling and go, I got to have that. That's going to make me more organized. And then you buy a bunch of stuff and then the stuff you buy might not even work for your application, right?
Exactly. And most of my clients have lots of organizing products. That's not the challenge. The challenge is how to use them in a space that works really well for them and in a way that works really well for them.
Is there a way that you can kind of guide people on what kind of tool to use with the particular space? Is there any rule of thumb or, like bins work well in this situation, but, folders work well in this situation? What would you say to that?
I'm a big fan of a lot of paper things that Smead shares, like accordion files and hanging files are really great. Some people love notebooks. So when it comes to paper, it really depends on where it's going to end up, if you're going to take it with you, and just how much detail you want in your paper organization. For products, I just go with stuff that's very, very general, that's clear, rectangular, maybe 2 or 3 size bins, so that we don't have to have a lot of choices, but we just have to have a lot of consistent products that we use throughout our home.
Right. And I think when you're dealing with bins and things like that too, then you get into like labeling issues and trying
Yes.
to sort things and what should go in what. So there's a lot more probably stress that goes along with that. So,
Right. One of the major things I think is people keep the all different kinds of circular containers, and I'm a big rectangle fan.
okay.
So I usually tell people, if you're going to think about using a product, think about the space it's going to be in. A rectangle often takes better advantage of the space.
Okay.
So,
That's a great tip right there. All right. Let's move on to the third most common mistake people make in
well,
organizing.
it's really with the difficulty in decision making and decluttering. People don't realize the kind of energy that they're going to have to use to make good decisions, and how do you base those decisions. So kind of having a framework of what makes a good decision for you, like what is the basis of a decision. When you talk with people about what's in their closets, a lot of times, does it fit? Maybe, maybe not. But would you buy it today to wear it? That's a good decision making tool.
Right.
So think about what ways you're going to make decisions about the things that are in your space you're ready to let go of and ready to declutter. That's a very hard one for people.
It would seem to me that there would probably be some acronym or something that would go along with that. Is there a 4-step decision-making process or a 3-step or?
Well, I do try to keep it simple, just like you're saying. No more than 2 or 3 questions. Look, when I see a whole list of questions, like 10 questions about things, I think, well, in the end, people are so overwhelmed by the questions. Why would they get started with the organizing or the
Right.
decluttering?
Right.
So, yeah, I think just keep some simple basics for yourself. Know yourself and what you use and how your family functions best with what you're using and where to store it. So, a lot of times people forget we have, the limiting factors that help with decision making too. Like everything should fit into the closet if it's closed. If it's in the kitchen, it needs to be, easy storage in there for access. So think about some of the other physical boundaries that help us make decisions too.
Right. And I think you probably have to be open-minded too. I think most people know what the right decision is if they have kind of a clear mind going into it.
Right. Right.
All right, Let's move
Exactly.
on to step number 4, or most common mistake number 4 in organizing.
This is another one I think everyone will really relate to. I call it zigzag organizing, and some of my colleagues have referred to that way too. It's when you start in one space and all of a sudden you realize you need to bring something to another space, and you go into that space and like, oh my, what's going on in there? So you spend a little time in there, and then all of a sudden you realize, whoops, I need to go back to another space. So when you're moving all around different spaces trying to get organized, it seems really inefficient. So try to kind of leash yourself to one space and only work in one space at a time so that you can make the most of the time and the most of your energy while you're organizing.
I have to laugh. This happened to me last night. I think I was working on some dishes. My wife asked me a question about something, so I went into the other room and first of all, I tried to remember why did I walk into that room, and then I started working on something, and then she said, "Aren't you going to wash the dishes?" And I was going, "Oh, wait a minute, that's right. That's where I was before." So I think that's a real common thing to get kind of sidetracked real easily.
Exactly. And the world we live in is so busy, we think we need to do it all at the same time, but it just kind of makes it harder for ourselves. So
Right.
yeah, I definitely think people trip
All
up
right.
on that one a lot.
All right, number 5.
Well, it's funny how much things coming in can trip up our organization too. Like, I don't think people always realize that the more that's coming in, the more you have to reorganize, the more you have to store. So, really kind of checking what's coming into your home or office as much as what's going out, kind of creating, I call it a flow, where things go out when things come in. So, if you're realizing there's so much more coming in, creating some people say 1 in, 1 out rule. I say 1 in, 2 out, because we're always overloaded with how much we have. So
Right.
it's much easier if we eliminate more than what's coming in.
What do you think are the biggest culprits of the incoming stuff? Where do you see us, gathering the most things?
Oh gosh, I think a lot of it is just thinking we're going to solve our problems by bringing in something new that's going to make it, the magical organizing product for ourselves. So I see a lot of people with a lot of new shiny appliances in their kitchens that are single use or the most, latest and greatest fad for something they're going to cook,
Okay.
So, a lot of it's with clothes, with it's on sale and I need one in every color. So, it can be a wide range of things that too much is coming in. Unfortunately, too much paper is always coming in. I think we all feel like, right?
Right, right.
So,
Well, do you think the decluttering process then is one of those early stages in getting organized in general? Because that's what it sounds like, trying to make sure that's part of your plan going in at least, right?
absolutely. Decluttering is always the first step when it comes to organizing. You have to release and let go of the things that are no longer valuable or useful for you or your family. And so, definitely the first step at all times is the decluttering.
All right. Well, we've made it through the first 5 steps. We're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll get the other 5 of the 10 most common organizing mistakes. We're with Ellen DeLapp from professional-organizer.com. We'll be right back. When you've got it together, everyone can tell. Your confidence is obvious. Introducing Viewables.com from Smead. Use the Viewables labeling system to transform your drawer of hanging files into a tidy, organized filing system. Using the premium hanging folder tabs, see the label from the front, top, and back. It's easy. Access Viewables.com from any computer, tablet, or internet-enabled smartphone. Let's make some labels. It's free, and there's nothing to download or install. Choose the label type and format your label just the way you want. You can even add index characters or icons for distinctive filing. Set up a free Viewables cloud account, and your secure login lets you save your projects for convenient access from any computer. And with Viewables multi-purpose labels, you can use one label for any type of file, including hanging folders, top tab folders, super tab folders, or oversized items like notebooks and file boxes. Upload a list of file headings and print your complete set of labels in moments. There's even a library of templates for commonly used label sets. It's never been easier to set up neat-looking files that have easy-to-read headings and efficient color codes. Obviously organized. Viewables.com. From Smead, keeping you organized. We are back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about the 10 most common organizing mistakes. And we're joined with Ellen DeLapp here from professional-organizer.com in the Houston area. It's not flooding there, is it? Boy, you've had a lot of interesting weather there this year, haven't you?
We have had some weather this year. Definitely a sunny, beautiful day here. Thank you for asking.
That's good. All right. Well, we've been through 5. I think it's time for the 6th most common organizing mistake.
So a lot of times my clients are very averse to labeling, and I am like an over-labeler because I feel like labeling makes it so much easier to maintain what we've set up. It helps everyone in our family, people who help us around our house, like our cleaning lady, know where things go. And so often people don't want to label, and as a result, their maintenance kind of falls to the wayside of their organizing. So more labeling is better. Label makers are everywhere. Does Smead sell a label maker?
We have actually our new online label creator, which is Viewables.
Wow.
And Viewables
Awesome.
actually has, you can not only label folders with it, but we have oversized labels that you can put on bins and things like that. And you can do color coding with it and load picture icons onto it. So there's a lot with that, which people can see at viewables.com, but that's a different commercial. So, but anyway, I think
labeling is an awesome part of this.
Yeah.
So
good. What do you think is the minimum amount of labeling? Because some people have no labeling, and then, like you say, you might over label. But what are some things that really help? I see like the pictures on Pinterest with the pantries that are all labeled. But what are some of the real basics that need to be labeled?
I definitely think common spaces like the pantry, the kitchen, sometimes the media spaces. Your kids, a lot of times the drawers where their clothes go, it's very easy to label inside there so that everybody knows where the pajamas go, where do the underwear go. So, and definitely file folders. Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised. When people are labeling, they're much more likely to maintain their file management as a result of having pretty labels that everybody can read that are easy to see. So labeling can play a big role in different parts of the home or the office.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're all for labeling here, so I'll be totally behind you on that one. How about number 7? What's the next step or the next common mistake that people make?
I think sometimes people confuse the lack of what I call daily distribution. Like a reset, like getting things back to where they go creates so much clutter. And as a result, people feel very overwhelmed and frustrated. They feel like their organizing efforts have fallen apart. So just setting up 5 minutes every day to get things back to where you originally had them and integrate what you've brought in. So a routine where you and your family are together doing this task at the same time, or you and your partner, you and your pet, however you want to do it,
Right.
so that things get back. And as a result, you're feeling like we really made a good stab at our organizing.
Now, would you call that like cleaning, reorganizing zones? Or give me more of an example of how
I
that
think
might
it's more
look?
like, you putting away your laundry at the end of, your laundry cycle, putting things back in the pantry after you've gone to the grocery store. Sometimes it's things like your kids' toys where they're in your office, but they really belong in the toy room, but they haven't gotten back there. So there's all different parts of your home or office that could use this daily distribution. Sometimes with families that have two-story homes, there's a gathering of stuff at the bottom of the stairs, and it just needs to get back up to the original space that it was intended for.
Okay. So, are you proposing to do that like in the morning, or should it be the last thing in the evening, or just sometime during the day when you would do that?
Most likely in the evening, but definitely sometime during the day. And it doesn't take long. I think most families just need to set a timer and get going, or set your own timer on your phone.
Hmm.
I think we need to sometimes push through that fatigue at the end of the day and get the reset done so that the next day we'll be ready to get started. It's kind of like creating a blank canvas if you're an artist.
Right. Right. All right. Well, let's go on to common mistake number 8.
I call it paper, paper everywhere.
Oh
So
boy.
because we have no specific space to place our paper, paper is in every room of the house. And so you really want to designate one space that all the paper goes to. And it could be a credenza, it could be a home office, it could be just a command center that I talk about. And in the Magic of Tidying Up book that's so popular right now, she talks about also having one space designated for paper so that we can really work through it, eliminate it as much as we can, and then, file it away as needed.
So, so you're talking about like a kind of an inbox or a to be filed file box, or what kind of container, or would you use for
Yeah, I
that?
love a desktop sorter. I love accordion files. I love wall pockets. Any of those places that you can set up a zone that is just for paper, where the paper comes, you sort through it for 5 minutes once a day, just cull down, and then once a week, go through it, work through it, that kind of thing. So it's like a station, I would say. Or, if many of us have home offices, we just need to scoot the paper in there and work through our paper.
Now, don't we also, if you have this sorting station or whatever, you also need a place to archive or put things? Do you have like a minimally viable filing system that you would set up for somebody?
Absolutely. And I love to have not only the filing system, which I call reference, it's something we want to look at, but also the archive, which is things we want to keep for longer term. So a lot of times I will use file bins, I will use hanging files, I will use just a very attractive box. That's like the lowest level of archive for a year. Like this is the 2015 box, and
Hmm.
we have the things in there that pertain to taxes and things like that. So
Okay, great. All right, so that was number 8. We're on to number 9 now, which is.
just in case. How
Mm,
much we keep just in case, because we're all very much attuned to the tragedies and emergencies that happen throughout our country and internationally. So we're keeping a whole bunch of things just in case. And I'm all for emergency preparation, but we need to be aware of there's a logical amount of just in case we can keep. And beyond that, we need to think about what were the scenarios, when might we have used it last. So kind of breaking through that emotion and that thought of I need to keep something just in case.
right. So, how do you break through that then? Do you propose? I mean, is there something you say to yourself, or how do we overcome that?
I think if you could logically explain to someone when you might use it again and it makes complete sense, like a lot of times people really are in a sense emotionally overwrought because of terrible things that have happened. So when you think about, well, I could use this in a year if this happened, and then explain it to yourself. I think it's sometimes just creating a little bit more logic for yourself rather than thinking about the emergencies that might happen. And I'm familiar with a lot of families now that keep, extra pantries and things like that. And I think having a designated space for just in case that has a list and some organization to it can be very helpful too.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, we have one more of the 10. What's our final mistake that people make?
Our final mistake is not asking for help. We need to team up.
Yes.
We need to get our resources all together with us, work in a group effort, and think about how much more we can be effective and how much more we can get done and how much more fun it's going to be when we all do this together. So being able to ask for help is sometimes hard for people, but you have to think about what kind of help might be around you. And even if it's not in your immediate family, we usually have some resources. And once we kind of think through what some of those resources might be, like extended family members, people in our spiritual communities, just high schoolers that we know that want, a few extra dollars for the holidays to get some gifts for their families. So asking for help is a really important part of the organizing process.
Yeah, what we do with our kids is we say, we just need your help for about 5 minutes.
Right.
And actually, it's going to be longer than that, but we got to get them started first. But
and food is a great incentive for those
that's
kids.
Right. Or
we're having pizza now.
Yeah, or playing with friends. Either you do this or else. I mean, I guess threats work sometimes too. But
threats can work. Bribery,
right,
definitely.
Right. Well, speaking of working with someone else, we're just about done here. Let's talk about your business and what kinds of services you provide and how people can get a hold of you.
Well, thank you so much. My business is based in Houston, Texas, but I do work virtually with people around the country. Most of my clients are ADHD women who have been challenged by organization throughout their lives, but want to get a better handle on it now. And they can contact me through my website, professional-organizer.com. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm on Pinterest as Ellen DeLapp.
Awesome. Well, Ellen, as usual, we always love talking to you because you always have some good insight. People want to find out some of Ellen's other podcasts, too. You can go to the Smead podcast page at smead.com/podcast. We had a great one last year on desktop organizing, so there's a lot of resources there, and check out professional-organizer.com. Ellen, thanks again for stopping in and giving us more of your great tips.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate being with you. Thanks so much.
All right, folks, there you have the 10 most common organizing mistakes. I'm telling you, don't make them now. Go out, though, and get organized, and we'll see you next time on Keeping You Organized. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.